Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Before we get to today's subject, an important piece of business I need to take care of, which is to welcome a new subscriber. Hans Gross, or is that Hans Gross? I'm sorry, I don't know which is correct, but I'm going to go with Hans because I have a good friend who lives in Germany, and I'm sure she would say Hans and not Hans. So that's what I'm saying. Welcome, Hans Gross. Welcome to the family. Hope you'll bring some more people with you. Also, I realized that you subscribed a couple of days ago, but I record these videos on weekdays. I'm actually recording this Monday. You're seeing it on Tuesday. So I didn't see your video until this morning because I take the weekend off, so I don't look at my YouTube channel or deal with it at all over the weekend. But welcome, and also, in case I don't get notified of every subscriber who subscribes, welcome to anybody I missed. If I didn't mention somebody, it's because I didn't know. So you're welcome just the same, and welcome to bring some people with you. Now on to today's subject. Well, actually, let me give you a little teaser here. Before I get to today's subject, I have something I want to tell everybody about. Something that I think well, if you're my age, you're definitely going to find this interesting, but some of you younger people might too. This is at the end of the video, so stay tuned. You have something to be in suspense about. Now on to today's subject. I've been concentrating mostly on the United States, the politics, the situation here, but I want to talk about the Middle East. I do talk about it every so often. I talk about Israel. I take a great interest in Israel, and especially these new peace agreements, this new warmth, these growing relations between Israel and the surrounding Arab countries. I think they're finally getting to realize when they see Iran and Turkey trying to conquer the whole Middle East, dominate the whole Middle East, and then you have little Israel in a piece of land about the size of New Jersey, population about 8 million total. That's everybody, not just Jews, that's everybody. And all they want to do is be left alone and have warm relations with all the surrounding people. They're not trying to conquer the Middle East. And remember that in 1967 they could have. In the Six-Day War, they had defeated Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. They really had the whole Middle East ripe for picking. They could have driven right into Cairo, right into Damascus, right into Amman, and they didn't. They just want to be left alone and have warm relations, and the surrounding Arab countries are starting to realize that. Now, on that theme, I want to show you a video. This is from an Emirati. The United Arab Emirates is one of the kingdoms with which the Israelis now have warm relations, full relations. What that means, and I'm going to tell you why it's so important, though it's probably pretty obvious, but people should mention it, because this is what this person tells you in the video. It's an Emirati who now, because of the warm relations, can travel to Israel. All these countries, from Dubai, the Emirates, Bahrain, the Sudan, they had bans on traveling to Israel. Now they can travel to Israel. And I would mention a couple other points. The Saudis are revising their textbooks. They haven't done it in one fell swoop, but they are taking the hate elements out of it, the hatred of Israel elements, the anti-Semitic elements of their textbook, the anti-Semitic elements of their textbooks. They're removing those. They are removing those. Oh, and I would just mention also that, well, you probably already know that women can drive in Saudi Arabia. Now, it was just announced that the first female flight attendants are, I guess, on the job now in the, I don't know what the name of the airline is, but the Saudi airline. So there now will be female flight attendants. So that country is trying to modernize. They have not established formal relations with Israel yet, but they have met with them, as they have been doing for years. and they obviously gave the green light to all these other peace agreements. The Emiratis, the Bahrainis, all these countries, they would not have established relations without a go-ahead from the Saudis, because the Saudis are the dominant power in the Middle East. Well, I would say they would be vying with Egypt, but I would think it would be the Saudis would be the most important because of their stewardship of Mecca and Medina, two of the holiest sites to Muslims. So now I want to show you this video from this Emirati, because he is making an important point that I will re-emphasize. He doesn't say it as directly as I do. So look at the video. It's about 4 minutes, but well worth your time. Also keep in mind that this is an interview with an Emirati in Israel on an Israeli TV station. With that in mind, watch.
Touring Israel now for the very first time. Martian, thank you so much for being with me. First, tell me about that experience of being at the Western Wall, this holy plaza, and lighting the Hanukkah candles. What did that experience mean to you?
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. First of all, I would like to thank the whole Israeli people for hosting us and having us here, considering us as family, not just friends. And of course, it's my first time ever. And to be honest, I mean, the delegation is really new to this place. I mean, everybody is visiting Israel for the first time ever, and everybody was happy. Everybody was so thrilled. Everybody was really enthusiastic to do this visit. So they took us to the Western Wall, which is called Kotel, and the experience was amazing. I thank God for being here at the Hanukkah time, and I wish everybody a happy Hanukkah. Going there, feeling the holiness of the place, meeting a lot of people. I mean, hundreds of people were there. Everybody was welcoming us. Everybody was shouting. Everybody was waving.
To be fair, you kind of got like a rock star treatment.
And we're happy. We're happy about it. I mean, everybody was happy. We were just smiling. Hanukkah is all about lighting candles of hope. And this is what we are hoping for. We hope for peace. We hope for prosperity. We hope for success to be in the whole region. We want our children and the next generation to be living in peace, not in conflicts, embrace prosperity and coexistence, loving each other, regardless of your race, religion, or any other background.
I know that you're not, you're learning a lot about Hanukkah now. You're here during the Hanukkah festival. Did you know anything about it really in the growing up or in the Emirates? Do they talk about it, or is this a whole new world for you?
It's a whole new world, but if we go back to check the policy of the UAE for the past decade, UAE has embraced the policy of tolerance, and we have been working a lot. The government have been working on a lot of policies to enhance and develop tolerance. We have a lot of more than 195 nationalities living in the UAE. A lot of them come from different backgrounds and religions. We love each other. We work together. We live in peace. We don't even focus on where you come from and what's your religion. Oh, it's different than mine. I'm not going to be nice to you because you're different than me. No, we're all part of this society in the UAE.
Is that what Sharaka is about? Is that what this...
Sharaka is all about building bridges. It's all about connecting people together. The first delegation was in Dubai like a month ago, and we met them. They met us. You know, it's like family. We met as if we know each other for ages, you know, and it left a great positive impact in the heart of all and each member of us. So that's why we have been hosted here to build bridges and to reflect the real image of Israel to the people.
And this is your first time in Israel. You say, and you will not be your last. You were excited 100%. To come back. I know you're a man of peace and a man of dialogue. Yes. I mean, that being said, everyone who has not been to Israel has some kind of stereotype of how they think life is here, how they think the people are. What surprised you in the last few days? What did you learn here?
I was really surprised about the people, the real people. I know Israel has a lot of segments of the society in terms of religion. I met the conservatives, I met the seculars, I met all types of people. Everybody, every single person was welcoming us. I did not expect it to be this way, to be honest. So having the misconceptions earlier, you know, by the misleading media was totally false. And I think thank all the people in the world, not just the Arabic world where we come from, or the Gulf, to see the reality of Israel and to see the reality of the UAE. Both nations, both countries want peace. They need this area to be stable. They don't want more conflicts. They want to combat any threats. So everybody want to live in peace. And this is what we have seen in both nations.
Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule on this trip to be with us here in the I-24 News studio.
Thank you.
A pleasure and a privilege to have you. Thank you, Majid, my friend. Good luck to you, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, Jeff. You're going to see me so many times in Israel now. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I think it's pretty obvious the point that I'm about to make after seeing that video, which is simply this, that there is still around the world, and especially, I'm sad to say, in Europe, which is, it's really strange because the Arabs are closer to Israel, more involved obviously in what's happening in the Middle East. They are warming to Israel, but you still get this hostility from Europeans, and also in our country on various college campuses. There's so much anti-Semitism, which is very often expressed as hatred of Israel, calling them an apartheid state and oppressors and so on and so forth, even though 98% of the Palestinians, they're governed by their own leader, by other Palestinians. Hamas, there are no Israelis at all in the Gaza Strip, and in Judea and Samaria, which are the historical proper names of what many people know as the West Bank, the Israelis stay out of that area too, except to arrest terrorists and otherwise keep security, which is done in full cooperation with Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian leadership. They cooperate with the Israelis, and not to put too fine a point on it, it's not the Israelis who are rounding up and locking up journalists who criticize the Palestinian leadership. I could go on, but the main point is that you have, just as you saw in that video, now you have these surrounding Arabs coming to Israel. They can come to Israel. They can see for themselves. You can see the impression that this Emirati got. You can hear and see in his expression the positive reception that this Emirati got. Everybody was warm to him. The Israelis were very happy to see him. I am sure he got to meet Israeli Arabs too, which, by the way, I did once. I met in New York City, where I used to live, an Israeli Arab from Haifa, very warm, very friendly. The point being that this false picture of Israel, how long can it last when you have all these Arabs going to Israel, seeing with their own eyes, hearing with their own ears, and then bringing back what they have learned, what they have seen and heard to the people back home who also want to come to Israel and see what's going on there. And of course, you have the other direction too. You have a lot of Israelis going to the Emirates and Bahrain and Dubai now. In fact, I just read an article about one of these countries that have just established relations with Israel. I think it's Dubai. I'm not 100% sure which country it is, but they are making definite plans to attract Israeli tourists to their country. They want them to come. But to get back to my main point, I digressed a little bit, you already have these Arabs coming to Israel, seeing and hearing for themselves what the situation really is in Israel, and more important, getting a very warm, friendly reception from the Israelis, and that very much includes the Jewish Israelis. What you're going to have increasingly going forward is people hearing all this anti-Israel bias, reading it, seeing it on TV, but comparing that to what they have actually seen and heard, or seen and heard from fellow Arabs who have gone to Israel, what the real situation is. So that is a very positive development. I am really happy to see that. I look forward to seeing more of it. And in fact, I myself would like to. Well, Jews have always been welcome in Dubai, for instance, these countries, but not from Israel. Jews like me from the United States, I could always freely travel to those countries. But now I could go directly from Israel to these countries, which I would never have been able to do. I could have a whole Middle East tour. I could go to these countries, these Arab countries, and Israel all in one trip without having to go through any. There are ways to visit all the countries, but it's a process that you have to kind of go through. So I won't go into details. I will go on to what I was keeping you in suspense about. It's about the Beatles. So if you're not a Beatles fan, this is not going to interest you as much, but I think it would. Anyhow, there was a movie that had been made some years ago called Let It Be, and it was about the Beatles recording. It was a documentary. It was the Beatles recording their Let It Be album, and it showed a lot of tension and a lot of fighting between them or among the Beatles, and gave the impression that it was a very hostile, bitter ending to their collaboration. But that is not accurate, as it turns out. What's really exciting is Peter Jackson. He's the director of the Lord of the Rings movies, those fantastic movies. He started a couple of years ago a documentary of the Beatles, 50 hours of video, of film and video that no one has ever seen. They were in some archive somewhere. He had been working on this movie, and then it was supposed to be released some time ago, but the coronavirus hit. That screwed up his production schedule. Now it looks like it's going to be sometime next year, 2021, that this movie will come out. But what he has done in the meantime to whet our appetites is to show some of the footage. So that's the video that I want to show you. It starts out with an introduction by Peter Jackson himself, talking about the film and the delays and about the footage that you're going to see. He makes clear that it is not a trailer, it is not a preview, strictly speaking, of coming attractions. It is just a sampling, a small sampling of these 50 hours of video and film that he has, that he's been using. Frankly, from what I can see in that video, I don't know how he ever is going to manage to whittle down those 50 hours to just, 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever. Because from what I can see, it is all fascinating. If you are a Beatles fan, you're going to really love this. But even if you're not a Beatles fan, just watching the recording process and how they work together in the studio, it's just so interesting. So what I did was I suspect I would get a copyright strike if I were actually to show the video. So what I did is I put a link to it. I put a link to it in the description, and I would encourage everybody to follow that link and watch the video. You will be well rewarded for your time, just as I hope you were well rewarded to listening to my vlog, as you should have also been well rewarded from listening to all my vlogs. And now, if it's not too much trouble, I would like to be well rewarded with a thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any comments? You can put comments in the comment section below the video. Questions, suggestions for future topics. You could also subscribe, as Hans Gross did. I would love to get more subscribers. You could also listen to my original music on my original music channel, which I do under the name Gene Allan. There's a link to that in the description. Yeah, you could also know how much I appreciate your spending time with me. I really do appreciate it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.